Okay, so here we are on week 4. We've already had a couple of lectures on this topic. I said I would create a video, so here we are. I do have some reference that you can use. You can read the Mozilla Development Network web documents. You can also go to W3 Schools and read about semantic elements. This is what this lesson is about. And you can read all about W3 Schools tags. These are multiple tags for HTML5 use. The one that you really need to focus on is this one, W3 School Semantic Elements, because that's what this is about. We're going to be working with a page that's already made for us, basically. It's made by the Mozilla Development Network. I think that if I click there, it may actually take me to the to their information about semantic elements. We're going to be dealing with articles, asides, and some other things, not all of them. I think that for this particular assignment, yes, article aside, I think you'll have a footer for sure and a header, definitely, a main element, and maybe one more, but I think an aside as well. And then you have more information from Mozilla. They are the creators of Firefox, so they know what they're talking about. They are in the game when it comes to making the rules for HTML5. The W3 Schools reference is always very valuable. This used to be a little site, and it's just been growing over the years. They've been getting really good at giving out quality information, so we always reference this website in our classes. This is the element that I want you to focus on, the semantic elements in HTML, and pay lots of attention to this little illustration here. This is a basic wireframe of a website. It could be any website, and hopefully it's one that you're sort of familiar with. Which one specifically? Well, I don't know. I do have some samples in the lesson. For example, this is a newspaper, the New York Times, and they definitely have a header where they have their logo. They have a navigation, which is up here. You can barely see it, but if you visit the actual website, you can see that this also works as a menu. And there's another one. There's another menu right here. So these are actually two separate nav elements. And I'm sure that if we were able to look at the page and keep on going, scrolling down, you would see that there's more navigation elements. Does that mean that you can have multiple navigation units? Well, yes, you can. You shouldn't really limit yourself to say, well, I can only use one of this one thing. You can only have one header. Well, maybe you should stick to one header, maybe you should stick to one navigation, but as you grow in your design experience, you'll find that all of these parts, they're like Legos. You can stick them anywhere. The most important thing is, like Legos, is that if they're a different color, they're a different kind, that you know what they are. And in these illustrations, you can see then that these are pointing to navigation units, to the header units on top. This other website, the Airbnb, has a header on top, which is usually that's where it is. There are sections that contain other things. There are articles that may contain other things. There are articles that may be just one thing, one big thing. This could be a section composed of multiple articles and a navigation unit right here, where this would guide you through it. And this becomes very useful once you start to add the CSS to the page. We will not be adding CSS in this exercise. We will not be writing any new HTML. The only thing that we're going to be doing is going to be adding these elements into the structure of the page so that it makes more sense. Not to you necessarily, not to me, but to the next person that opens the page and says, okay, well, what is this page all about? Well, they can see the content. They can see that there's going to be some text. There might be some pictures. But, you know, now we're going to tell them, well, this part right here, this is the header. This is going to be the navigation. This is going to be the main part. There's going to be an article, and there's going to be a footer at the bottom. So before I keep on talking more and more and more, let's go back and look at the actual assignment. I'm going to scroll down. So this is what we're doing. We have 4 wildly different sites that you can see up here, and that's what I just talked about, and explains a little bit more of what the different parts are. The ones that we're going to be focusing on, we're going to be looking at headers, navigation, sections, articles, footers, asides, and figures. It really helps if you know the parts of a newspaper or something similar. I've worked with and read newspapers for years and years and years. So to me, it makes it's no news that there are articles that are little pieces that are contained within a section. There are sections that are actually caught between a main part or a separate section, etc. So it's just a matter of breaking down where things should go. In the end, you can put them wherever you want, but we want to sort of stick to a logical progression of placement and structuring of the website. So this is once again just repeating the same illustration here, the very generic desktop page structure. This could be a layout as well. This one here, notice it's got a header, navigation, section, article, asides, footers. There could be sections inside of an article. There could be articles inside of a section. My preference is that you have a section that contains articles. There could be an aside that's inside of a section. In our exercise, we're actually going to have a main that has articles inside of it. The footers at the bottom, the headers at the top, head, footer. All of this, everything in here is part of the body. Let's not forget that, but that's not necessarily a semantic element. The bottom sample is the same thing. We have a header and navigation. You have a section that has two articles inside, and then you have a footer. This is more of a layout made for a mobile application, for an app on your phone, something like that, or a version of a website that will run on a mobile device. So for this exercise, and I'll be walking you through everything, so just follow along with what I'm doing and listen to, I guess, how I'm trying to explain it. We're going to need to download these files. You're going to need a week 4 directory in your GitHub, and you're going to be needing to put the files that we download into the same folder that we'll be creating the index page and downloading the CSS to. So index.html and style.css have already been written for us, and all the pictures are already here. The th just means that this is a thumbnail version. It's the same file, the same image, but it's smaller. And it's favorite 1 through 4. So we're going to have 4 pictures that we're going to be dealing with. Just for better explanation, it's that follows. We're going to be definitely dealing with a header. We're going to be dealing with a main. As I said, inside of the main, there's going to be 2 columns, and we're going to be dividing the columns by using either sections or articles. We'll find out what those are when we look at the provided CSS. Like I said, the CSS is already given to us, so we don't need to worry about that. And the footer contains the copyright information and credits. That's the very bottom. You will need to add a suitable wrapper for the header, navigation menu, main content, the welcome text, the image sidebar, and the footer. So, and also very important, you're going to need to link a CSS to the page. Now this is this file right here, style.css. You're going to download it. You're going to put it in the same folder as index.html. So everything's going to be inside of your week 04 folder, but you need to link the CSS inside of the HTML file. Otherwise, you will not be able to play along. There's a big hint right here. If you click, it'll take you to W3 Schools, and here's how to add a CSS. It's in the sample. It gives you just tags. That's a tag that's going to be placed inside of the head element inside of your web page. In this case, their file is called mystyle.css. Our file is called something else. We'll figure it out when we get it. Okay, all that being said, let's get to work. So I'll open, I'm going to go to GitHub, and you'll see that I have folders 1 through 8 already built. Week 4 is not there, so we're going to create a week 4, and we're going to be doing all of this actually inside of Atom. So let me double click on Atom to open it. I'm using a Macintosh, by the way, so any shortcuts that I use will be with commands as opposed to controls. I'll specify what I'm doing. I do have a week 4 folder here that's empty. That's why it doesn't show up in GitHub. So here, I know then that I need to go to the assignment, and these links will directly give you the content. I have index.html, which I can just click, and it'll take me to a GitHub page where the index is already here. I can either copy all of this text, or I can tell it to show me the raw copy. It will open up, and it's just the code. I'll click somewhere inside. In my Mac, I will press Command A, that select all. You press Control A on a PC or on a Chromebook. Right click and copy. I'll close this file, or that tab anyway. And since that was the index file, inside of my week 4, I'm going to right click in the folder and say create a new file and call it index.html. All lowercase, no spaces. Notice how it already gave us the week 04 because it's part of the name. Basically, the web page is going to be built inside of that directory. I'll press enter to accept, and I have a blank file to play with. All of that code that I just copied, I'll click somewhere inside of my blank file. I'll right click and tell it to paste. I could also press Command V, Control V on a PC, also on your Chromebook. And I have the code for my index page. Like I said, it's already built. We do not need to change anything here. We're going to be adding some code. We're going to be adding some semantic elements. So to do that, we'll return to the assignment. I already have the index.html. I'm going to download the style.css. And by that I mean I'll click on it. I'll get to see the GitHub page, and I'll do the same process. This is going to be called style.css. I'll look at the raw file, click somewhere, press Command A on my Mac, Control A on your PC, and then you can either do Command C or Control C to copy. Right click and copy, same thing. I'll close that tab, go back to my week 4 folder, and now, since I have the index already going, I'm going to right click and say create a new file. And this is going to be styles.css. Very important to remember that that's what it's called. I'll click on the blank area and paste. I can press Command V or Control V, or just right click and find the paste. All the CSS is already coded. You don't need to change anything. Definitely on CSS, you will not be adding anything. You will not be moving anything out of the way. We will be looking at it though, because we need to know what the other programmer expected us to be using as a head for the header, for a footer, etc. You can tell that these styles are already defined. There is definitely a body. We will not be messing with the body or any of the headings or paragraphs, etc. But we do want to look later as to what's going on with the header, what's going on with the navigation units, what's going on with articles, asides, what they expect us to be using. So I'll make sure that this is saved. I'll click on File and say Save All so that everything is safe for now. Well, we'll not be moving anything yet to GitHub. It's got 2 files that are being changed, but let's keep on working. Next, we're going to have multiple files in image form. There's a logo that goes on top. It's a dove. And then there are the 4 separate files for the images. And each one of the files is actually 2 versions. There's one that's just a regular picture, and the other one that's smaller, that's a thumbnail. So I'll click on Dove for starters, and I can see the outline of the dove. So this is a ping. It's going to be a transparent file. I'll right click on it, tell it to save the image, and I'm hoping that it's going to show me the directory, a directory that I can use. In this case, it's showing me the desktop, and there's a whole bunch of junk that I have on my desktop. More specifically, though, I know that in my desktop I have a folder where I'm going to be saving some files. I think I called it Some Files. There it is, Some Files right there, and I'll save. So it's going to save. I can close the tab. I'll right click on the next one and save the link. Save the link as, and it's going to go to the same place, favorite-1. Can I make these smaller? Yeah, so you can see what's going on. I'll click on save, and same thing for the next one, and so on and so forth. So pardon me while I save all this stuff. Right click and save, right click and save link as, and I'm just going to be pressing enter from now on. I could still be opening them up and seeing what's going on. I could right click and save the image as that. And maybe I should be doing that. No, it's actually they're all saving as JPEGs, which is what I want. Make sure that you're not downloading an HTML file and saving it. Make sure that they are image files like JPEGs or PNGs or GIFs. There's no GIFs in this one. I think I got favorite 2 and favorite 2 thumbnail. I'm going to do the same thing with favorite 3, save link as, and accept it. I just press enter. I can see in my directory just there that it's saving properly. I'm going to save the link as 4 and then the final one. Save link as, and it's a final thumbnail. I'm going to click on the drill, the caret, and go to the Finder so that I can see what's going on in that directory. And it's on my other monitor. Let's bring it back. I have a Dove image, favorite 1 through 4, 2 versions of each. So that's the Dove logo. It looks like this. It's a transparency. Then there are multiple birds, and one's a thumbnail, the other one is the whole thing. All of these files come from a Mozilla project. Okay, so what does that mean? Let's go back to this folder where I should be able to start to see where my files are. Let me see if I can reload this. If I were actually saving straight into that file, but no, that's not where I was saving it. But at least I know where they are. They're inside of some files folder in my desktop. But I need to put them in the right place in week 4 folder. So I'll right click and reveal this in Finder. So it should be able to open up another folder that shows me my folders for the course, weeks 1 through 8. If you are on a PC, if you right click on, like I did just now, it should show you Reveal in Explorer. That would be the Windows version. I'll double click on week 4 where my index and my styles are already there. I'm going to then, I can move or copy all of these, up to you. In a Mac, I would simply just drag everything and then hold down the Command key so that, actually it's the Option key. If I press down the Option key, that plus appears, and that means that I'm going to make a copy. If you're on a PC, then you could select all of these and press Control C to copy, and then click on this window, press Control V to paste. I'll close those windows, and now my folders inside of Atom are showing what's going on. So let's look at the code. I have index open, I have styles.css open. I'll scroll to the top from both of them. And like I said, I'm not necessarily publishing or pushing anything just yet. I do have 11 files that I need to play with first. Let's see what's happening in this page. I'll click on the index file to select it, and it's already open actually. I'll right click on index and scroll down to the bottom, and you can't see it, sorry, and find Reveal in Finder. In your PC, it's Reveal in Explorer. And then here's my index. I'll double click to open up what's going on in my web browser. So here's the file, the logo. It goes to the very top. There's a bird watching logo, and then there's our menu. It doesn't look like much. It's just an ordered list, actually an unordered list. And then there is welcome, and this is actually one column that goes all the way across, and this is favorite photos that are going all the way across. And then this right here, Dove Icon by Lork, is a footer. Well, how can you tell? I can only tell because it's going from top to bottom. I expect the header to be on top. This should be part of the header. This should be a menu that goes across, and this should be 2 columns. They should go side by side instead of sandwiched on top of each other. And how do we know this? Well, I'm making a lot of assumptions because things go from top to bottom. That's how HTML rolls. Even though later you'll see that you'll be able to manipulate that. But on a very simple page like this one, things will work like that. It goes from top to bottom. What are we going to end up with? Well, let's look at the assignment. In the assignment, there's going to be, or actually there already is, a link that tells you where this comes from. This is an exercise at the Mozilla Developers Network. This link at the very top, I'll click on it, and this is the assignment, structuring a page of content. You please read everything, read the brief again, read what you're supposed to be doing, but then look at the sample. This is what we're dealing with. This is what we want the page to look like. Like I said, you don't have to design this. It's already been designed for us, but it's not making any sense to the browser. This page is this page. Except this page is not green. this page doesn't have images. This page just uses regular fonts, while this one has a structured font already put in there. It's even got a shadow, a glow. The logo is smaller, is pushed to the right, and that ordered list, unordered list, is actually a menu that goes from left to right. Everything's separated in its own boxes, and the footer is also its own element. The photos are showing us the thumbnails going 1, 2, 3, 4, as opposed to going all the way across. They're sort of stacked on each other. Don't think of them as being specially stacked. They're actually going from left to right. It's just that it went from left to right, it ran out of space, and it just went to the next one. And that's how it works. Favorite photos, this has also been manipulated by CSS. And like I said, that's already done for us. If I right click on this page and I view the page source, you'll notice that then HTML, there's the body, and we know everything was going to go inside of the body. These files are actually already have some spacing in them so that you can see where we're going to be looking to insert some things. Spacing is irrelevant when it comes to HTML. You'll see that it's actually loading up a link that will open up the big size file, the regular size file anyway, while it's showing us the thumbnail. It's also got some alternative text that will help people that can't see the images. There's the rest of the code. This is a very short page, so it's not a lot to look at. The more important thing is going to be, like I said, later when we start to look at the CSS code. I would click on the CSS code, except we don't have a link to it. Remember the assignment, what it says? It's actually like here toward the bottom here. You have to apply the provided CSS to the page by adding another link element. Another link element. So there's already one then on there, so you sort of know where it's going to go. It's going to be where the other link is. I'll click on the hint. Actually, I've already opened it. Go ahead and click it if you have it closed to get the hint, and you'll end up in how to add CSS. This here is the link text that we want to copy. I'll right click on that, copy, and it's saying that it's going to be basically linking a style sheet that is called, this one is called mystyle.css. Ours is called style.css, like this. So inside, not of the CSS file, but inside of the HTML file, where the other link is. Let me see if I can, well, I know I can. I'll tell it to view and show a soft wrap so that it works a little bit better. Let me try that again. View and soft wrap. There it is. Now my line 6 is split into 2, but I know that link starts here. Line 6 actually goes through these two lines. There's a space here on our line 7. I'll press the tab to get closer to where it's supposed to be, and I'll paste this. Control or Command V to paste. So now it's linking to a style sheet that is currently called mystyle.css. Ours is actually called styles.css. So I'll change the name from mystyle.css to styles.css. And I'll save it. File, save. Let's look at what that's looking like. I'll close this HTML and reload our sample page. And it's looking different. Now we can see that it's still trying to load the text. It's still trying to load the photos, except the color's all wrong. But you'll see that there's actually some effects being applied to the fonts. There's colors being added. Our menu is starting to look different. Everything is starting to look different. Like I said, it's already done for us. So all we want to do, all I want you to do is to understand what these things mean. We know we have a header, and we know that in order to apply the header, in order for the header to work, we need to represent it somehow in the HTML code. If I were to look at the CSS, styles.css, it's already dealing with the body, it's already dealing with the headings. We're not dealing with those, but here's the header, and it says that it's currently saying the background color is red and the padding is 1%. And that applies to everything in the body. Everything right now. Except that when the header comes in, that red is going to be changed to something else. This is an RGBA value, so RGBA, A is for the transparency. R is 0. G, the green, is 255, so it's full green on. there's no blue, and then the transparency is just very little. There's a little bit of padding, so this is different than what the body tells us that it's going to be doing. Although this is applying red everywhere, we're going to override it by saying wherever we have a header, this is going to be green and not red. Inside of our index then, bird watching, right now this box looks red. And it's almost, I don't think it's where it's supposed to be. This icon is definitely not where it's supposed to be, but we can start to play around with and affect how they're going to be looking. So we don't need to change the CSS. We need to specify the structure of this HTML document by saying right here before bird watching starts, but inside of the body in my line 14, I'm going to open up a bracket and say header, just declare the header, and I'll copy this text. I'll just type it again. After that is said, that the bird watching headline is typed and then the dove is displayed, then the header is over. We're done with it. So it's going to be open angle bracket / header and say everything inside of these two lines. Header and / header is the header option. I can make this a little bit smaller so that we can do the reveal. I'll give myself a little bit more space and then just save the file and save, and then reload our file. So the area that we have just changed, this header for bird watching and the dove, have been changed. It's green. It still has this shadow or glow around it. The dove logo is all the way to the right and it's a lot smaller. That does not happen in HTML. This just happens in styles and our CSS. The header, though, it's going to say that it's got different things that it wants to do. So they're declared differently, and then we're actually making several changes to the header throughout. But the last one is the one that counts, where it turns the background green and it throws the logo way to the right and makes it smaller. So now we know that we have that header. I told you, I promised we have a footer right at the very bottom, so that's just an easy one to do. I'll go to the very bottom, and I know that the footer says that the dove icon is by the author there, and I can read the text. And I know that this fake website example is blah, blah, blah. That should be part of the footer as well. And that is in the sample that we opened previously. So our footer is all this fake website all the way to Lork. This fake website starts on my line 42. Just before that, I'll open up an angle bracket and say the header starts here. And then when it's done on line 45, I'll open up the angle bracket and close the header there. I'll save this file, save, and reload, not the sample, that will not change, it's just a picture, but reload our page. And now we see that we have a footer. It goes all the way across as it was meant to, and it has the text that belongs there. Now, we also need to deal with the rest of the page. So, and it told us in the directions what we're dealing with. We have a header, and then we have this menu. We'll have these two columns that are inside of a main position, as it were. That's actually the main semantic element. I'll look at the directions again, not here, but in eCampus, and scroll down to follow the directions for this project. We've already done the header and we've already done the footer. What does the main need? Main content area contains the two columns, a main block with the welcome text, and then the sidebar that contains the image thumbnails. The header, by the way, also contains the menu. So before I forget about the menu, let's scroll up and see in our index.html that we've already added the header. It's already there, and it ends right there where the image ends, but here's the menu right below it. So I can easily move by selecting the header closing tag and moving it. I press Control X, Command X to copy, or rather to cut, and then paste it back after the menu list ends. The unordered list ends there. I pasted the header, Command V as in Victor to paste. I'll save, File, Save, and go back to my site and reload it. So now I have the birdwatching headline, the heading, and then I have the dove and what looks to be the rest of the menu here on the right. It's not supposed to go there. It's actually going to be having some different coding. But it's probably not working because header is not the only thing that we need. We have, if we look at the assignment again, that there is this navigation menu, right? And I've been talking about the navigation, that we have a nav, and we stressed out there are navs in all kinds of pages, and we just need to define that this menu even though it's just a list, needs to be declared as such as a navigation. So I'll open up an angle bracket, type in NAV, and then before the header closes, I will close the NAV by adding an enter space here, bracket, and /NAV. Tell it this is where the navigation ends. I'll save this, File, Save, go back to our working file, reload, and now we have a header that looks more correct. It has birdwatching on top, it's got the logo, and then it's got an actual menu that if you click on it, nothing happens because it's blank currently. Now we do still have these two columns to fiddle with. These two columns, though, they're going to be inside of another element. They're going to be inside of the main. So our main content area contains two columns. The block will contain the welcome text and a sidebar. Sidebar is a big hint. They're telling you that it's not necessarily going to be an article. It's not necessarily going to be a div. It's going to be probably an aside. And we can definitely find out what it's going to be if we look at the CSS code. There is already code here for an aside. So I'm going to guess that yes, there's going to be an aside. And then there's actually articles and sections. All of these things are already sort of nestled inside of main. So the rest of this project should be fairly simple. We know we need to add a main that contains an article, and then next to it there's going to be an aside. So following the flow from top to bottom, we've already got the header done, we've got the navigation, the menu, and now I see that the header stops and then we have the welcome. I said that there's going to be those two elements that are going to be inside of a main. So I'll open up a bracket in main and go to the bottom so that I can close it. And you know what? I've told you before that you could either use a header or a footer, and this was not on purpose. I used a header for both the header and the footer. So I will correct this and type in footer to open, and because it knows I messed up, it's trying to close it. I'm going to make sure that this is just footer here, and then below it's going to close the footer, /footer. Okay, well, hopefully you caught that before I even caught it myself and typed in footer instead of header. At the very top, though, I already opened up the main, and that is going to be all good code up to the footer. So just before that footer opens, I'm going to open up bracket / and close the main. I'll save. You can always use your shortcuts, Command S, Control S to save, and go back to birdwatching. Reload. So now my footer is still okay. My header is still okay. Didn't really care because they have very similar code. So now I have a main that has the content for two columns. The two columns are not necessarily working just yet. You'll see the pictures are all over the place. The text is trying to figure out what to do and it can't. So our welcome is the first part. So right after main opens, I'm going to declare this. I think, let's see if section works. If it's not section, it's going to be article. Those are the things that are declared. And we know that the second column is going to be an aside. That's going to be the favorite photos. So before favorite photos, I will open up a bracket and close that section. Bracket /section, save, and reload our file. And now this is looking a little bit better. It's changing color, and there's definitely a division. Now we need to see and decide, is this going to be the aside on the right side? And that's going to be the favorite photo. So right after the section closes, I'm going to open up a bracket and say this is the aside, the beginning of the aside. And all of this is going to go throughout the rest of the main. So before main closes, we will close the aside. So all of these tags are just opening and closing, and everything inside of them, the browser now knows what to do with them. I'll file save this and reload the page, and everything just fits in really nice. If you these photos, actually the links are kind of live. If you click on them within your site, you'll be able to open up the image and see the birds full version. But now we haven't really coded anything. All we've done is that all this code, this is what it means. This part that was already programmed for us, and it was already styled, we just defined it, we just structured it. We said this particular code, and I can start to take away some of the spacing if I want to. This is where the header goes. Inside of the header, there's a navigation, and then the header ends. And after the header is done, we have a main that now has a section that says welcome, and it says all this stuff, and it can go down in one column. And then when that's done, we did open up an aside and closed it. We're done with the main, and then at the bottom there's a footer. So we didn't really code anything. We just added some additional tags, and now the browser can figure out what goes where. So now that it's done, I feel comfortable in saying, yeah, let's file, save all, and then I'll go to I want to open up my Git here and see actually GitHub. I need to log in because I don't know why. I already downloaded everything, but let's say I'm going to get a token. I'll click on that, and it's going to ask for authorization. I'm going to copy that token and paste it here, Command V, and log in. And now hopefully it will allow me to start to push from Git. I'll stage all of these files. I will commit a message saying uploading all of the site. Well, not all the site, all of the web page. Commit, and then push. Crossing my fingers that I get no errors. And up it went. I'll close this window, the Git and the GitHub, and go back to my file. This is where my ITC 1411 lives. I'll reload the page. And here's my week 4 that I just pushed, uploading all of the web page a few seconds ago. And I see that all my files are up. And if I follow the URL, my username.github.io/week4, and right click and say go to, it will open it up in a new window, and here's my published site. This is the URL, your URL, the one that you need to turn in. It's going to be your username.github.io/week04, and the index.html file should load, and if I were to right click, I should be able to view the page source and then click on styles.css and see the styles.css file that you used. This template is actually pretty neat. You can use it for the next exercise, 4.2. Some of you already have. So, explore what you can do with CSS and HTML. This is actually, I talked for a long time, but I think we could have done this in less than half the time. If you put me on, I will not be offended if you put me on 2x speed and just get through this a lot faster.